So today I get to speak to Ref Lee Thomas. This guy, a lot of people always say, how much does a ref know? They always say, like, what's the biggest misconception? They're going to answer all that kind of stuff. Are you willing to answer all this stuff?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Awesome, awesome. But first, intern, roll the intro. And of course, please welcome my guest, Ref Lee Thomas. How are we, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. How about you?
I'm not too bad, mate. Obviously, it's been one of those weeks. The weather's been pretty shocking, so it's kind of
Yeah.
like made it a whole lot dull. But you just got to keep going. Busy week, I presume.
Not too bad. Like, I've had quite a chilled week actually, after a busy weekend. But yeah, it's going good. Yeah,
Anything exciting? Anything exciting to say? Or just general chilled week?
just general chilled week, spending time with the kids, all that stuff.
Fair enough.
Day
Fair
to
enough. So yeah, I think we'll obviously start with the weekend, which was Sov Pro, which I believe was Sunday.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Talk about obviously the show overall and what it was like, because I was actually at Rev Pro.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was good, man. It was sort of the first anniversary show. They started up last year in October, so this is the sort of the big anniversary show. Yeah, it was good, man. Just good vibes, good in ring. It was good fun.
Was any obviously talent we're obviously aware of? The only one I actually remember seeing was Man Like Darius.
What was that? Sorry.
So were the familiar talent obviously with people know in the UK? Obviously, I know Darius.
Oh yeah. The main event was Joe Connors and Rampage Brown. As you say, we had Darius. We had Cole Radrick from GCW. We had Ivy, Lucia Lee. Trying to think off the top of my head, there was loads. Yeah, man. We had the big tag title match between the 87 CPF to crown the first Sov Pro Tag Champs. My head's gone blank, but it'll all come back to me. It will all come back to me. It was a loaded show anyway.
That's fine. That's fine. So we'll take obviously a few steps back, and I obviously want to get to know more about you. Now, I remember obviously speaking to Scott Bell. I'm going to ask you some of the same questions. Many people, when they grow up, they say, "Do you know what? I want to be a wrestler. I want to be this," but not many people said they want to be a ref. So my first question is, why a ref?
Well, I was also one of them that wanted to wrestle, but very quickly, realized it just wasn't for me. Coordination is not my strongest suit, and you have to be quite coordinated in there. I started refing quite earlier on, like when I was training, I'd ref in the training matches, and it kind of just stuck from there, really. I'd just keep refing and training until one day I was approached, would you like to do this on a show? And I thought, well, let's give it a go. And that's it really from there. My focus went from wrestling to refing.
Interesting. So, what obviously goes into refereeing? I obviously imagine like physique and stuff, obviously coordination. What actually goes into being a ref?
You've still got to have that sort of in-ring cardio. I mean, it's a different in-ring cardio, I'd say, to like wrestling. And you can be on your feet for an entire show, and you're constantly up and down while you're counting pins and checking holds. So you've got to have that sort of decent level of fitness. I mean, yeah.
No, that's absolutely fine. So, how much obviously do you know about a match? Obviously, do you know the outcome? Do you know pretty much the finish? What do you actually know when it comes to a match?
So I personally, like every ref will probably be different. But for myself, I'll know the finish. I'll know who's going over, and then I like to know sort of maybe just the spots that the guys in ring want me to know. If they've got any sort of particular spots where they need me in a certain position, or if they're going to do a specific sort of cheat in that I need to not see, or need to be taken away by somebody else. But other than that, really, I like to go in quite blind so I can sort of react to things quite naturally. Like when I first started out, I like wanted to know everything, like where they were. Like I'd listen to them plan the match essentially, and you'd sort of know what's coming. So like you'd telegraph maybe your reactions to moves and stuff like that. So I like to now sort of go in with what I need to know, and then just sort of be natural.
Yeah, I think that's a fair little comment. So I presume you have so many matches a show. Is it like 2 or 3 matches?
It depends on how many refs we've got. Like at South Pro, we had 3 refs. It was it was a 9-match card, so we ended up with 3 each, which is good. But then you'll have some shows where you'll only have 2 refs, or even just the one. So it can vary. I mean, I think the most matches I've done in one show is probably is like 10. But and like then I've gone to shows and I've done 2. So
How the hell did you manage to cope doing 10 matches? I imagine that was draining.
yeah, I was pretty dead by the end of it.
10 matches, damn. How big what car? Like a full day event or something?
Yeah, it was. This was like back in the sort of old EBW days when I used to do that. EBW was like the first promotion I worked for, my first training school in Sheffield and Rotherham, and so they used to run like matinee shows and evening shows. So you'd have 2 essentially full cards. With very little break, maybe half an hour break, like essentially just a long interval in between, and then you back out again. Well, luckily, none of that these days. But yeah,
Basically, what you're saying is the cards have got shorter.
yeah, or just no, yeah, pretty much. The Sweet 6 is what I like. The Sweet 6 match card. That's always good.
Okay, that's fine. So, what's some obviously matches you actually ref which you're proud of?
I mean, the big one for me was the Impact title. I did the Impact title at South Pro back in February with Josh Alexander and Kez Evans. That was huge for me. Like, I'm still buzzing off of it now. I suppose it's the TNA title now, isn't it? So again, just the history with that, and getting to be in there with like world class guys like Josh, and I mean Kez himself is an excellent wrestler. They put on a good match.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder well, you mentioned that there. Obviously, I'm a big TNA guy myself. What do you think? Obviously, now they're going back to the old name.
Like, I think it's cool. I mean, I've always still call it TNA. I mean, we know it's Impact, but like if you're talking about it to friends and whatnot, like you're still calling it TNA. Like it just feels right, doesn't it? Like in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, it does. And I think the one thing I found out yesterday is the library's still called TNA anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, yeah, it's still technically TNA, but I actually love it. I mean, I love the fact that obviously they've gone back to it. There's some obviously good names there. So one question I want to ask, and obviously I've asked a few people this: what's the biggest misconception about a ref? What's the biggest misconception?
That we just count to 3. That's like quite a big misconception I find with a lot of people, that we are just in there to sort of, count the pins in the matches, when really we're doing a lot more. I mean, we're timekeepers. We're the first port of call if somebody gets hurt in the ring. We've got to be able to make that assessment if they're good to go, or if we have to call it, throwing up the old X and whatnot. And then even when we're not in ring, we'll be on comms with one another, like sort of, backstage, trying to keep times and whatnot in each other's earpiece, relaying messages from the promoter if needs be. So, there's a lot going on. even if there is just more than one ref, you're still working an entire night, like the whole
Okay.
show.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, some of the referees, obviously, now. Obviously, you work with. Is it the usual people like Scott, Sandy, James? Do you work with all these as well? I presume.
Yeah, like Sandy is my main one that I work with. We work most shows together these days. We train together at PPW as well, so we're quite on it together. We work together at Tidal, again at PPW, and at True Grit, and with Scott as well. I work with him quite regularly. He's made me a much better ref in the last couple of years, just with like his advice and like just how sound he is. Like he's just such a good ref and a good guy, and he's willing to share like advice and experience with everyone. Like I don't think I'd have half the opportunities I did if it wasn't for Scott Bell at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I want to just move obviously swiftly away from refereeing at the moment, and I want to obviously get to know how you got into wrestling. And I'm talking more from obviously in a fan point of view.
So my earliest memory of wrestling, like from when I properly got into it, I remember it always being on like before The Simpsons back in the day on Sky One. So it was I'd always catch maybe the end of it, but I was never allowed to watch it. Um, like my parents weren't keen on it, so like it was that. But like one sort of just as I got older, I came across an episode of, I believe it was WWF Live Wire. Like the old highlight shows
Mm-hmm.
um, on Sky One, and what the segment that I remember seeing first was the Triple H and Stephanie wedding with Test.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I just thought it was absolutely ridiculous. But like, I wanted to see where it went. I wanted to see where it would go, and yeah, that that kind of kept me. I just thought it was really silly, but then like it introduced me to everything else around it, and I was hooked. Like by the time Royal Rumble came up, like that Royal Rumble 2000 Triple H and Cactus is like my favorite match of all time.
Yeah, it's a good match. I just want to. I've got a little side joke here. Is when you're watching referees, obviously like on shows like that, are you very critical of stuff like that, or do you pick stuff up?
I have to watch wrestling like twice now. Like I'll watch it and I'll watch the refs and sort of, you know, not so much critique, but sort of try and see what they're doing, seeing where they're at, like see if I can take anything away from it, sort of studying it. And then I'll have to go back and watch it for like to sort of take that out of my head and try and watch it for as it is and try and enjoy it.
So basically, WWE Raw ends up being 6 hours, not 3.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
That's brilliant. So this obviously brings me obviously onto my next question. The British wrestling scene as a whole, I mean, I've said this many, many times, it's in a great place. Do you know what I mean? There's some phenomenal
Yeah.
talent up and down the UK. What's your obviously overall opinion when it comes to the scene overall?
Like I think it's in a really good place at the minute as well. Like it's like you're never at the minute, I don't think, more than an hour away from like a quality wrestling show, which is like every weekend, which is cool, like really cool. Um, like I think a lot of the yeah, as I said, like just like the quality of in ring and like production and presentation has just come so far from when I started in 2015. It's just yeah, like it's just really good times at the minute, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for people obviously listening, obviously in other countries, which talent from the UK scene would you recommend like people from other countries going to watch? Like checking out?
Ooh, like are we meaning sort of established or up and coming sort of guys or a bit of both?
Bit of both.
So like for you sort of established guys, like for me personally, like right up the top there is like Liam Slater. For me, like I mean, also, I mean, he trains me at PPW, but just like to watch him is just like he's just so good at what he does. Like he, with the pure style wrestling, but then like when you go to a show like at Planet Wrestle and he's doing this sort of comedy conspiracy heel at the minute, and he's just great at like everything he does. I think like he's definitely sort of one of my favorite to watch. There's Leon Slater, of course, who's just huge at the minute, and I believe he just made his TNA debut today in Glasgow. I think he's on that whole tour. Again, just incredible. Joe Connors is another one for me. Like I owe Joe quite a lot. He gave me my first outside booking from my original training school, Elevation. Like again, he's just someone that's just so good and just gets it. Again, like Sam Gradwell, after coming back from NXT UK, I think might be one of the best in the country at the minute. Just what he does, he's just so good, just so good. And in terms for like upcoming people, Vusek, just incredible. Like he just everything he does is just so crisp and legitimate. You've also got the likes of Joe Wade, Kemper, Jet Marshall, sort of from PPW. Like this, I could be sat here ages just rattling off these people, man. Like
we've got time. Go ahead.
I don't know. Like you've got like Reese and Rogan for your tag team stuff, who are just so good at what they do. Like all people that are like just when I get to ref these people, it's just easy for me because you know that you're going in there and you're with guys that know what they're doing, and you just have a good time. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah, like I said, you could literally reel off so many people. I mean, I can think of loads, even like ones you've not even mentioned. I mean, probably Lana Austin, obviously John on the women's side, Lizzie Evo. There's so many. I mean, I could not be happier about the British wrestling scene.
Yeah, like from the women's side as well. Like, of course, like I mean, ZZ at the minute, I think is is going to be huge in the next year or two. She's just so good at what she does at the minute. And then you've got Ivy, of course, who's like just great. Like their stuff with Lana as well is just incredible too. And Rio as well. Again, like you could just be sat here with for ages just talking about like how good people are at the minute.
Absolutely. So obviously, I'll move back obviously onto reffing. Is there a different approach for example, if you're doing PPW show to like Sub Pro? Is it the same approach, like obviously reffing, or is it like a different approach backstage and stuff?
I would say pretty much the same from like what I do. I'll go in, introduce myself to people. I'll have a look at the run sheet. Like some promotions, you'll be given the matches. Other promotions, the referees just sort of divvy it up between themselves. We'll sort of go over that, and then I'll go and speak to people, just let them know that I'm their ref for the night, sort of thing. And I like to work each show in halves because it's just easier. So I'll do the first half of the show, and then during the interval I'll get all my stuff for the second half of the show, and just overload if I try and get everything all at once. I'm getting old, man. Like the memory's not as good as it once was.
I'm not saying a word on that one. But you said that, not me.
Yeah.
Dear. So obviously, when you're getting ready for a show, do you have to get yourself into like a zone or anything, or is it just like boom, focus?
Yeah, I'll get I still get nerves before a show, and sort of when I'm putting my case together, and I'm just if I stop and think about it, I'm like, but sort of when I get there, you see everyone backstage, and then you just sort of snap into it, I suppose. I mean, it's good that you get that sort of bit of nerves before as well, because you're still feeling something, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a nice little fair comment. So, any injuries? Ever suffered any injuries since you've been reffing?
What was that? Sorry.
Any injuries?
On myself,
Yep.
I've been thankful so far that I've been fine. No injuries from reffing anyway. Um, uh, I can feel it more in my knees these days. I think it's just a matter of time before my knees tell me to stop. But until then, I'm gonna keep on going best I can.
Fair enough. Any ref bumps?
Yeah, like a fair few. Not as many as Scott. Nowhere near as many as Scott. But yeah, I can't remember the last time. I think it was at True Grit. Um, I got bumped by Sam Gradwell. I think that was the last bump I took. Um, yeah, the odd one, but you get through it. I enjoy them; they're good fun.
Yeah, I mean, I remember speaking to Scott, and he's like, he just texts bump after bump, and you just see all the
He's a
videos. I'm like,
machine.
yeah. So for you, obviously, as a ref, obviously you might have some goals. Do you have got what's your goal short term or what's your goal long term?
So, my main goal overall is just to sort of, I mean, it sounds cheesy and corny, but just to keep enjoying what I'm doing. Like, I'm having the best time at the minute doing what I'm doing, going out there and um, and refing these shows, and I just want to sort of keep that going. I've got my little list of promotions that I'd like to work for eventually. So like North up in Newcastle, that's like sort of the goal. That's where I'd like to sort of go. Eventually sort of end up doing a show there would be awesome. I'd like to go up to Scotland. Specifically, I'd like to go up to Aberdeen because I'm from that area. They've got a promotion called WrestleZone up there. It'd be really cool to eventually maybe go up there and touch base and sort of, that's where I saw like my first sort of indie shows and sort of have a bit of a full circle moment there. And like the likes of your Progress and Rev Pro. Again, it would be awesome. But like if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, I'm still really proud of everything that I've done. And I just want to like keep rolling with it and see where it takes me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't ask obviously Scott this, and obviously I've just thought it as you were talking. So in wrestling, some things never go to plan. It's
Yes.
just the nature of the beast. Have you had that done where something's not gone to plan, and how did you deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, like I've had you know injuries happen, um, like not to name names, but I've been in a match where somebody hit their opponent with a clothesline and just knocked clean out. And and like I went down to check on him and he just didn't respond to me. So, we kind of had to like end the match there. So like to keep things going, I told him to just, quickly pin him and he got the match over, and then the guy got checked over. I mean, he started coming to afterwards, and he was absolutely fine. But like I think it was only a couple of minutes into the match. We had a 10-minute match to go. We just had to sort of make that decision to go. No,
Yep.
yeah,
So is it fair to say that obviously when it comes to refing, you're thinking 2 and 3 steps ahead?
yeah. I think you've got to sometimes. You've got to sort of just think of the what ifs as well. Like, what are you going to do? Like safety is paramount. Like before anything else, like the safety of the guys in the ring, guys and girls in the ring, like is your number one priority. If things like if people get hurt, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about the match. It doesn't matter about who's going over. It doesn't even matter. Like, luckily in that sort of situation, we could kind of like get to a finish. But really, like if he was sort of up and dazed and still not responding, we would have just had to end it. You know what I mean? Because the guys just need to be safe.
Yeah, I think that's the key one there. Obviously, safety. So, I'm sorry, I'm reeling questions off left, right, and
No,
centre
no,
here.
no, go for it.
So, being obviously a ref, I presume you've had some criticism from obviously fans.
Yeah, I would say so.
And again, how would you deal with that?
You've just got to ignore it, really. like I became a bit of an unintentional heel ref back in my initial promotion because I'd get all the all the dirty finishes, and the other ref Neil Ayrton would never get any dirty finishes. And whenever I'd come out, I'd get booed, and it goes, "Oh, here we go, it's the dodgy one." We would play up to it a little bit back then, but yeah, now it's just sort of like the one thing that always gets me is if they're counting ahead of me. That's trying to put you off if you're in a 10 count, and then I forget where I'm going. And yeah, and they've got me a couple of times with it, but you've just got to try and not let it get to you.
Do you
But it's
sometimes
all
just
fun,
laugh at?
it's all just fun and games, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you just laugh it off and just think, "Do you know what? Just screw you guys. I'm
Yeah,
here
yeah,
for
yeah, pretty much. Like as
it."
I say, they'll get you sometimes. Other times, you can be like, haha, but
Dear. So, for people obviously watching and they might thinking about getting into refereeing, what would you obviously say to them?
and it's just like same as you would for like getting into wrestling. Really, is find like a reputable school, with like trainers, good trainers, and just sort of go from there. Like if there's a school where there is a sort of established referee, at the minute, like James Greenwood at Future Shock, he actually runs referee classes. He runs about once a month. He's got a whole heap of trainees uh, down there learning to ref now. Quite a few of them have made their way onto shows. I've worked with one or two of them so far. Excuse me. At PPW, you've got myself and Sandy. We're down there whenever we can. And again, up at I believe it's up at Grafters and at Rampage Brown Schools in Newcastle. You've got Rich Swift up there, and he's got a couple of trainees up there. There's Katie and Ross, who are they've Ross has been on shows for a little while now. Katie's just getting onto those, and like there's a nice little new group of refs coming through. So I think like now is a better time than any. Like if you're wanting to like sort of search out and and become a ref, like now's the time to do it.
There you go. There you go. So you just mentioned PPW. Now, before we came on the air, you said that obviously they've got a show Sunday. Is there any familiar talent on that show we can obviously expect?
Yeah, so the one on Sunday I'm doing is they're sort of like they do their in-house shows, which I'll get filmed for YouTube. I don't know the card at the moment. I'm sure we'll have an appearance from like the likes of Nathan Black, and Liam may make an appearance in ring. I believe the PPW champion Music Man will be popping his title on the line, but I don't know that much about it yet. I probably won't know until I get there. But yeah, it's always a fun time. Like the level of production they're putting out on these in-house shows at the moment are great. This is like the 21st one that I'll be doing. As in the 21st show. I've not done all 21, but it'll be it's going to be good times. It's always fun.
Yeah, I'm curious to see the freak shows on there because obviously I've had the privilege of interviewing those.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun with Axel. Um, yeah, he's always one that'll get me to corpse somehow, some way. He'll manage it. He's a funny guy.
What's he like? Obviously behind the scenes because obviously I've only interviewed him once with Felicia as well.
He's Axel. Like when he gets into it, as soon as that mask goes on, like he's Axel backstage. He's just unpredictable now.
Yeah, he definitely seems like a unique character. I've seen his Instagram and stuff like that, and he seems to Got a thing for Ace Matthews, weirdly.
Well, yeah. We all love Ace Matthews, really, though, don't we?
We do. I hope he watches this now, because I've just said I love Ace Matthews.
His Twitter is going to be blowing up at the moment.
Hey, he's very active on Twitter, right?
Yeah, he is.
So I imagine, obviously, sorry, again, I'm just throwing these questions out here.
Yeah, go for it.
So I imagine, obviously, you're juggling stuff and like that. Do you manage to watch much wrestling yourself as a fan?
Not as much as like I'd like to. I mean, I try and keep up with it the best I can. It'll mainly be through like YouTube clips nowadays. I can't remember the last time I sat and watched the show from top to bottom. It might have been Mania. Probably the last time I actually stopped to watch a show. But yeah, I don't get that much time because I'm either at shows or sort of, you know, having a bit of downtime from wrestling. So,
Yeah, the thing is, I always remember one of my friends saying to me, "There's so much wrestling out there. It's virtually impossible trying to catch up on it all because there's just so much."
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, how much is just WWE now? Is like what NXT, SmackDown, and Raw is like 9 hours of just them. 9 hours a week, and then with AEW and all your impacts and stuff like that. There's just so much out there, which is good. It's great, but like trying to keep up with it all like as regularly as I once did, it's just impossible these days.
Yeah, it is. It's also challenging, obviously, doing shows like this because it's like I've got to try and keep up on the latest news. And even sometimes when somebody says, "Oh, did you hear about that?" I'm like, "No, I did not." It's like, "Oh, this has happened." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
It's absolutely crazy. So, tell everybody where you can obviously find you and obviously do some shout outs if you want. Go for it.
Yeah, so like you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. It's Refley844 for both, I believe. I'm gonna shout out my training school, PPW. Liam and Nathan do an excellent job down there. There's a great group of guys coming through that are about to sort of burst onto the scene or soon. You can watch what we're doing down there on their YouTube channel. Sandy and Scott, like from the ref side of things, I'll put them over for days. There's a few other refs that I get the pleasure to work with. Like Danny Marks, another great ref. I've got all the time in the world for it. And again, like Ross and Katie up in Newcastle way. Yeah.
There you go. Is that any more?
Oh God, I don't know. There's probably people that I should be putting over. I'm not going to put over Alan Kay because that's the one you'll probably want me to put him over. I'm not going to put Alan Kay over. We've got a bit of a feud going in. We've got a match together in August, so that's going to be a bit of fun. Yeah, I know.
Ooh, interesting. I stay tuned for that one. So yeah, I mean,
how that goes.
Lee, thank you obviously so much for taking the time to talk to us, my friend, and good luck at PPW. I will be checking that out on YouTube.
Lovely. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. So any final words before we get the outro?
Oh, I don't know, man. Just no, I've got no words of wisdom, unfortunately.
Okay, Magic of Wrestling is obviously back this Saturday.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. The Magic of Wrestling is obviously back this Saturday as we are looking at with horror. Let me try that again. Take two. Magic of Wrestling is back this Saturday as we're looking at horror movies involving wrestlers. So stay tuned for that one.
Nice one.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.